Hey, it's Cam.
And Hannah.
I use they, them pronouns.
And I use she, her pronouns.
We are recording on Seminole.
And IS land.
And we are conservation
baddies. This is a podcast where we talk, inform, and highlight some baddies that we know in the conservation field. It's 2022. Hey. Thank you for everybody who listened in 2021. We have statistics. Well, maybe not statistics, but we have numbers. I don't know if we want to go over all of our analytics, because I don't know I didn't look into the definition of all these things, but what I thought was cool is there's a Spotify. So this is only for Spotify, because I'm sure we could get analytics or other things, but I just looked at Spotify. But they have different categories. So they have the gender of your audience, and how many people you have, whatever. What I thought was interesting was they have how old people are, which I don't really know how they find this out, but the majority of our people listening were 23 to 27, but we also had people who were 17 years old or younger, and we had some people who were 45, between the range of 45 to 59, which I think is so cool because oh yeah, everybody.
That's awesome.
And then the other thing I thought was cool was that we were listened to in 4 different countries.
Oh, let's go.
Obviously the US, because I listen to these episodes, so
yeah,
obviously the US. And then we had listeners in Canada. Okay. We had listeners in Spain, which I thought of you because you used to live there.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone I know.
Maybe. And then we had listeners in Ireland, which is what I was like, what? Ireland? That's so cool.
That's sick. Wow. Okay, we're international.
Yeah. Oh, and then the other thing was that it said that most people listen to our podcast between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. So then I put a note that we should start signing off with a lullaby.
Okay.
So that everybody, they have a good night. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying maybe we should whisper our whole episode.
Oh my god, yeah. I should just ASMR. Yeah. No, but I thought that was really cool. So I just wanted to thank everybody listening to this. It honestly feels like nobody's listening to this. Maybe it's just because we're talking to each other, but obviously people we have 22 followers on Spotify. So that's really cool to me. I don't know. So thank you.
22 people in a room, that's a lot of people. 22 people staring at me, that would be a lot of people.
Yeah.
Scary, but exciting.
That would be scary. But yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But so I can talk about my weird animal. This just came to me randomly. Armadillos. Because they're so cute and I love them, and I feel like they don't get the respect they deserve. And I remember one time at UF, it was 7 a.m. I was walking to class and I saw an armadillo crossing the crosswalk. It didn't even jaywalk. Yeah, it's very sophisticated.
Okay, polite.
Yeah, and so then I was like, I love armadillos. And they're kind of weird. They look kind of weird, but they're cute. But I thought it was cool because the information I got on them is from the Texas Park and Wildlife website. So, but it still applies to armadillos everywhere in the US because we only have one species, which is the 9-banded armadillo. And then I mainly just want to focus on one fact about them, because I guess we didn't mention this, but in this episode we're talking about mushrooms and fungi, and apparently armadillos really they dig a lot and they make burrows, which I didn't know, and they also dig for their food in the soil, and that's where mushrooms and fungi live. So they interact with fungi all the time, which I think is really cool. But then it also said that they make in their burrows, they make that space for other wildlife to use and benefit from, which I think is really cool. And that they eat grubs in your yard and in your ground, which is bad for your yard. So they're good and they're taking care. They're landscapers basically. And they
Wait,
eat
so
other insects.
oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, you're good.
So are you saying like they're like a foundation species? I forgot if that's the word.
It doesn't say that. Or are you talking not foundation, but
Oh my gosh, it's like that thing that I'm obsessed with the wolves in the Yellowstone. Hold
oh,
on.
I can't think of the word. Not an engineer,
Oh
but
no. I was Keystone. Keystone.
beavers are engineer species. Keystone species are like gopher tortoises.
Right. Are they
It
like
doesn't
that?
say that, but I'm gonna assume it might be because like I
Mm.
know the reason that because the main like keystone species I know here in Florida are gopher tortoises, and I know the one thing that makes them keystone is that they create habitat for other things. So like if they weren't there, other animals might not be able to persist. But I don't know that much about armadillos. I feel like if they were, there'd be like more hype for them because I feel like nobody cares about armadillos. I mean, maybe I'm wrong because I don't see like propaganda about gopher tortoises, but they get signs. I don't see any armadillo crossing signs. I feel like they deserve signs. Like they deserve to be able to cross the road safely.
You know what my theory is? And I could
Hmm.
be totally wrong. I'm just kind of a pessimist in situations like this, but I feel like
I don't know.
the reason why is because n less people want to study it because they can give you stuff like diseases.
Are
So
they the ones that carry leprosy?
I think so, yeah.
But
So
like,
maybe that's why people care about them less because like they aren't as studied.
but we carry so many diseases.
Yeah. Uh,
Oh yeah,
hell yeah, we do.
they. I guess. Well, it says Hansen's disease. Is that because is it
I
because
don't know what that
so
is.
I thought it was no possums.
Maybe I'm
Oh,
con
okay.
No, I
No, I
think
think
it
you're
is
right. I
armadillos.
think you're
Yeah.
right. 'Cause I love a possum too, don't get me wrong, but I feel like possums are kind of like they're like more they have their fair share of memes. So I think people care about the possum
You're
more
right.
than the armadillo.
I do love
Maybe I should make
possums.
armadillo memes. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make an armadillo meme and it's gonna be the best meme ever and they're gonna get all the hype they need.
I love it. I can't wait to see
That's what
it.
I'm gonna do. But anyways, that's just my weird animal because they're cute, they're weird, they interact with fungi, they just want to hang out like we want to hang out and um there's only one species in North America. I think there's 20 total, but there's only one that lives in North America or America, I guess. 'Cause I guess I
Is
don't know about Mexico.
it's native?
I think so. I mean, it's a state mammal of Texas. Oh yeah, it's originally native. Oh, it's originally native to South America, but it ranges as far north as Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and
Mm.
Louisiana.
Okay, yeah.
And oh, they're yeah, and so I'm assuming that they move themselves, which is why they can say like
Yeah,
they
'cause
probably just like wandered more north.
okay, that makes sense. 'Cause I remember I'm like I know they're from some are from Mexico. Like I didn't realize we only had one species here.
Yeah, it's the same thing as possums. I think we only have one species of possum, but there's like other more. There's more possum species
Mm,
because yeah, possums are the only marsupials we have here, right? I think so.
yeah,
But
we're
wait,
marsupialists.
yeah, so gotta love a possum. But yeah, that's my weird animal.
So my weird plant of the week, we're actually going to talk about it later on in the episode as well. It's the Lackless mint. So it's an endemic mint species in and it's endemic to the scrub habitat of Florida. So it's one of the most rare plants in the world, basically. And just so you get an idea of how much they're struggling. Someone actually, I volunteered at a mint restoration event just this weekend, and they compared it to sea turtles, and I thought it was a very interesting comparison because, so basically this, um, there's like there's like thousands, hundreds of thousands of seeds in each plant. It kind of adapted, just like different animal species that have a bunch of eggs, but not all of them survive. Only 1
Mhm.
to 2% of the mint species seeds are viable. And then on top of that, you have like the loss of scrub habitat, and then they
Mm.
need very specific habitat. Like they need bare sand and they need lots of rain. So it's rare for out of hundreds of thousands of seedlings um, for them to survive, or sorry, hundreds of thousands of seeds for them to survive.
Mhm.
There are only going to be a few hundred seedlings that actually like grow up and can reproduce from that, all those seeds that were
1 to
dispersed.
2%.
1 to 2%. So it's like goes further. So 1 to 2% are viable and become seedlings, and then out of those seedlings, only a few hundred survive.
Uh,
That's so basically just to reword it because I know that it was a confusing explanation, but yeah. So that's how they're very rare and they need very specific habitat and not a lot is going for them. I'm just gonna be honest.
oh,
So if you have a chance to volunteer, this will be my little plug here.
oh yeah.
They do it every month for their first few months of the year. So they're gonna be doing it until March, I think. And it's just 4 hours of removing love vines. The main invasive species that are threatening it are the love vines. And it's so cool because it's not cool, but it's so interesting because you can see it when you're out there. Like the ones with love vine on them, they're just brown. Like you can see they're
Mm.
dying. And then you take them off and just I volunteered the month before, so I got to see like the improvement just from 4 hours of work. And not a lot of volunteers, I'll be honest. Like most of them
Mm.
are older and they can't do as much physical labor. Like it is a lot of physical labor to do in this. It's a lot of bending for long periods of time, standing and cutting different plants off, and it's in the sun and there's lots of bugs. So if there are younger people that live in the area, please volunteer, and you can DM our
Yeah.
Instagram for more information.
Ooh, yes, I like that. Our Instagram is at conservation baddies.
Yes. Um, so it's the love vine, and then there's also the natal grass are the two
Oh,
biggest, and
my-
pine seedlings. There's a lot of pine in scrub habitat, which that's great. That's where they're supposed to be. But the seedlings, like if there's too many pine trees, it will
mm,
cause too much shade, and they need again, they need sun and they need a lot of rain, and that will lead to them dying. So
damn. That's really
on
cool though.
later.
I love that mint species. I love that it's like only found in Florida. It's like very
Right?
special. Yeah,
It's one of
I'm
the
here for
rarest plants
that.
in the world, and
That's
we get
literally
to look
insane.
at it. And I got to taste it even. Like, I don't know
You
if I'm allowed
tasted
to
it?
say
You
this.
ate this rare
Yeah,
plant?
I know, I know. No, but they have a lot of leaves. Like it doesn't hurt
Yeah.
the plant. But I took one little leaf. It has very small leaves.
How dare you?
I took no. They told me to. They told me to. I took a leaf and I smelled it and then I tasted it, and it's a very
Mm,
it's mint, but it tastes really different. Like I've never tasted anything like it. So
I want to taste it now.
save the mint. Yeah, if you ever come out, or maybe I'll just steal one for you, just one leaf
Please
for you to
bring
taste.
me a leaf. I hope that also gets the propaganda it needs
Yeah,
and like the, pop culture reference. Should we make a Lakela? I don't know how to pronounce it. Lakela, Laklas,
Lakla.
mint. Should we make a
Yeah,
Lakla's
I
mint
always get
meme?
confused. Oh yeah, we can mix the two. It could
Oh my
be a
God,
little
armadillos.
armadillo, like saying "save the mint."
Oh, that's cute. I like that.
I can't draw, so
I can't
I
draw
can
either. I was just
Photoshop
gonna use
it.
like clip art.
Yeah, I can Photoshop it. Oh yeah, or you can. We both can.
So I was gonna go on talking about our main topic, which are mushrooms, fungi, ha ha ha. Um, so basically, this topic came about because we both obviously love mushrooms very much. They're really cool. But also, I watched I don't know if you've seen this, I think I told you about it, but the Fantastic Fungi documentary on Netflix.
Yes, I saved that one for a rainy day because it looks so cool, like
I've
visually.
watched it twice
Oh
now.
my
It's very cool. Oh my,
God.
okay. I was gonna do this for later for the recommendations, but this is my recommendation. My recommendation is this Netflix documentary because of obviously the topic, but the visuals are so insane. Like, it's so captivating. It's not like a boring documentary. They use CGI or I don't know what they use because like I don't do any of that stuff, but I highly recommend. But this is where I got all of my information from. So basically, I was just gonna like nerd out on fungi for a second because they're just really cool and it blows my mind. Like, I'm getting so excited because like it's just so interesting. Okay, so basically, I was just like preface this by saying this. I think the documentary is like an hour and a half to 2 hours long. So I'm only gonna talk about the things that like the first time I watched it, I was like, oh my god, that is so amazing. That's so cool. But like I can't talk about everything because it'd be too long, but also like then I'm taking all the fun out of like you watching it, you know? But so I guess I'll start off by saying like it's called fantastic fungi. So like mushrooms are fungi. I don't know who knows this. I mean, I didn't know this until this year, but mushrooms are the fruiting bodies of the fungi. So they're just like the reproductive organ. So like when you pluck a mushroom, like the you didn't kill it, you know?
You're plucking the genitalia.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty much. And you're eating it too if you eat
Jeez.
it. So,
Oh my
but I mean,
god.
it's like eating, no. It's like eating fruit. It's equivalent to that.
Okay,
Like
yeah,
a
that's
fruit,
better.
like that's,
Yeah.
it's just a way for their spores to disperse. But and then so there are I don't know if this has to be estimated. There are 1.5 million species of fungi in the world, which they said is 6 times more than how many plant species there are. There's
Total?
a lot of plants total.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
I don't know if that includes, nah, algae is not a plant. Hmm. But yeah, I just said plant species, but there's a lot of plants. So like there's a lot of mushroom or fungi species. And they can, so they're like decomposers, right? But they can break down anything that's natural. So like anything natural that's made out of hydrocarbons, which I guess I don't have a chemistry degree, so I don't really fully know how to explain that. But like we're made out of, like we're natural, like trees, anything that's not made like chemical or man-made,
Yeah, I get what you mean.
So then it talked about really briefly this experiment that I honestly like blew my mind. I don't know where they didn't like talk about like where the experiment was done or who did it, but basically, I guess they had 4 different piles that were just saturated with diesel and petroleum waste, and then they had one control. So one pile didn't have anything on it. It was just the waste. It was just like diesel and gross stuff. One pile they treated with enzymes. One pile they treated with bacteria. And then another pile they treated with fungi spores. And then they left them for 6 weeks and they went back and all the piles were just like gross, black, like mess, smelly. But the one that had mushroom spores was full of oyster mushrooms. Like the spores and like this. Okay, so the spores, like I guess, oh, dang it. Now I can't explain this without going more into depth about explaining fungi, but basically, like it grew. So that's like their seeds, basically. So the seeds are just there, and then it grew and it broke down, which is what it's supposed to do. It broke down all the oil, and from all that energy that it had, it made mushrooms. And then from that, they said the mushrooms and the mushroom spores were attracting insects, which attracted birds. And the next thing they knew, there was this whole like ecosystem on what used to be an oil spill. And I think that's really cool. I don't know why, or I don't know if it's being like applied to actual real life problems, because we have oil spills. But
Right.
it's crazy that a mushroom can do that.
So a mushroom could be used to help counteract oil spills, basically.
Allegedly, I guess the only thing
Allegedly.
I don't, well, because I don't know the details of the study. I need to see, and the thing is, I came with information this time, but I need to like go more in depth with it because if I don't know how it would work on the ocean, right? Because
Right.
if the fungi consumes all the oil, it's just gonna fall to the bottom of the ocean, right?
Well, hold on, let me look this up real quick. So I was like, isn't there fungi that grows in the ocean though? Like on reefs and stuff. Okay,
Are
there's
there fungi in the ocean?
marine fungi. Yeah, marine fungi here. I'm
Oh,
going to
there you go.
Wikipedia, even though everyone tells me not to. Um, yeah, there's fungi that will grow sporadic. Okay, it says wholly or sporadically submerged in seawater. So, technically, I don't not they probably only did terrestrial fungi, but maybe we could use it in marine oil spills. That'd be really
Yeah,
cool.
that's interesting. I'm wondering if other people are doing more research on that. I think this documentary is, I don't know if it came out last year, if it's like pretty recent. I think it's pretty recent. So maybe like they're still doing research on it.
Mm.
But I just thought that was really cool because that's like a huge issue. And also just like other waste that we have, like food waste, and I guess a lot of our trash is non-decomposable because it's man-made, but I guess it
Mm.
could solve some problems, which not, yeah. But I don't know. I thought that was cool. And then another cool thing, which I guess I could have said this before because this explains how like how fungus work. So like the mushroom is the fruiting body, right? But then underneath is where the actual organism is. And it's the way I like to think of it is that it's like the root system of trees, but it's way bigger. And there, I guess this documentary called them threads, but what you would call the roots on trees are like, they're just like these really tiny, skinny like threads. But it's called mycelium. And so like that's the actual like body of the fungus, I guess. But they said that the mycelium, which is like the underground networks that fungus are made up of, that have more networks than our brains have neural pathways, which I thought was really cool. Because like if you think about it, it's like, oh my god, like they're smarter than us. But like I don't know.
We're
But
dumber
then
than a
there's,
fungus.
I mean, they've been around forever. They know so much. It can do so
True.
much.
That'd be
I mean,
interesting.
we can't eat an oil spill.
I wonder, I don't know if this makes sense even, but I wonder if they do have like, because fungus has been around since like before the dinosaurs, right?
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. Let me look it
So
up.
I'm wondering if they somehow have carried memories of some
Oh my
sort, like maybe
god.
not memories how we recognize it, but like if they do have those
No.
pathways, like memories through the root system, like I wonder if that has been saved somehow and maybe in the future if we could tap into it because I actually saw, this is like unrelated, but I saw something cool where people were making music with plants and fungus
Yeah,
too,
I've seen that.
like so I'm like, well, sound waves are in a way like how I symbolize like a thought going like flashing through your brain,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably what it's picking up. So maybe they have like thoughts and memories. I don't know. I love mushrooms.
I no, I do too, and I wouldn't put it past them to like be like these supreme beings that are just
Ooh.
like just being low key. This documentary, I didn't write it down, but the documentary said that if and I'm gonna say when, because it's gonna happen, humanity goes extinct, they're gonna be the next species that takes over. They're just
That's
so
awesome.
abundant.
Well, wait,
It is awesome.
hold on. I'm looking this up now because I remember like mushrooms were huge, right? When dinosaurs were around? Or was that just,
I
yeah, they were giant prehistoric mushrooms. They were huge, just like the insects were huge. So they
and the
used to be as big
sloths.
as trees, basically.
No way. Man, what
Yeah,
I wouldn't
I'm
give to
pretty
see a
sure.
tree-sized mushroom.
That'd be so
That would feed you for
cool.
forever.
Let me see. Yeah, it says over 20 feet tall.
I don't know why I'm looking at pictures as if they're gonna have images of this. I'm like, where's the pictures?
They have sketches.
Yeah, I wanted a legit picture though, you know. I see so many
The
Photoshop
little
pictures of like
dinosaur.
people.
Imagine a dinosaur with like taking a Polaroids.
Oh my god. Imagine a dinosaur taking a bite of a giant mushroom. So cute.
Oh my god, that is so cute. This article that I'm reading is going like way too into it, but it's cool to think
Too much
about.
info.
Yeah.
Oh, but another cool thing that I heard, which I don't know if you learned, I learned this like a while ago that like trees can communicate to each other through like chemical symbols and stuff, you know, or not chemical
Yes.
symbols, but like they release chemicals and they're like, "Hey, get away from me! Like you're too close. I need my space." Or like grass, the smell that grass makes after you mow the lawn is like chemicals being released. That's like, "Hey, we like are injured. Like this, like we're in danger."
Oh, I didn't
Which
know
I
that.
don't know what that really does. See, I don't know if it's like I thought it was like a danger alert, but then I'm like they can't move, so maybe it's just like chemicals being released because it's cut. What? Because anyways,
Maybe it's to,
but
well, maybe since it's injured, it's to deter like pests. I don't know.
oh, maybe yeah,
Or like,
maybe.
yeah, or something like that. But
But
I
like
definitely know about the tree one.
yeah, and so like plants, like they know what they're doing, and but then I also learned through this is that they use the mycelium underground to communicate to each other and to swap nutrients, like because if their roots aren't touching the mycelium. Okay, this is how big it is. It said that under, if you're walking in a forest, under each footstep that you take, there's 300 miles of fungi. So like there's so much of it that the trees and the other plants will use it as like a way to communicate, which is so cool. Like there's this whole thing going on underneath the soil that we can't even see or even begin to understand. Like through research, they like are understanding this, but like, come on, like you know what I mean? It's so
Yeah.
complex. It's so
I don't think so.
cool.
Well, actually, I want to go back to the marine fungi because in that article that had way too much information, another article that had too much information, um, they were like, it's the same thing with like, you know how we've only discovered like a very small percentage of the ocean, like that applies to marine fungi too. So I wonder like what the network underwater could be like. Who
Oh
knows?
my, oh my gosh. You're
Or
so
maybe
right.
under
That's
the sand,
crazy.
or maybe even on the reefs, even though the reefs are declining. Save the reefs, but
Save the reefs.
yeah.
That's really interesting to think about. They're so interesting.
Yeah, so it's not a taxonomic group at the moment. Who knows? Maybe as you discover more, but they
Oh,
only
it's just
there's
like
some that
under.
only grow. Oh,
Okay. I'll just say one more thing, which is something I learned from this again. I don't know why I keep saying this is what I learned. I learned all of this. But okay, did you know that penicillin is fungus?
I didn't. I thought it was like a chemical.
I thought it was man-made. No, I don't remember who found it, but they figured out that like, oh, if you like mold like will stop an infection, and then they couldn't figure out how to like get a strain going. But then somebody, I forget who, sorry, but you know, if you watch the documentary, you'll know this information. I'm only here to give you a summary. But they found a moldy cantaloupe and they used the mold on that to start the first like penicillin, I guess, strain or just like batch. And yeah, it's freaking fungus. And the way it works is that apparently because fungi in the environment, they're competing for food and they have to fight off bacteria and viruses. They release enzymes to like fight off all these other things and it kills everything. So when we use it, it kills all the bacteria like in our body. I think that's so cool. So basically, we're just like using fungus as defense mechanism for our benefit. So it's not Western medicine. It's just literally. I mean, I don't know. I guess I can't say that, but it's like natural. You know, like it's not.
Mm,
I just thought it was like some chemical stuff, like you said. Like
yeah.
I was like, what?
So, okay, just to make sure I got it. So we're injecting ourselves with fungus,
Well, I mean,
basically,
it's I guess or like
or
taking a pill
mold.
or whatever. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I guess
you're right.
using mold, but for a good reason.
That's funny.
But isn't that crazy? It's like it's like one of the biggest medical advances in whenever it was made. But like
Like the
that's crazy
1800s?
to
I
me.
don't
And
know.
it's just a fungus. I can't remember. I didn't write down the dates. I didn't want see I didn't write down the dates because then it's gonna be giving credit to people, but it really should be giving credit to the fungus
Love
because
that.
they're
Yeah.
doing all the work.
Okay, true.
But yeah, that's the end of my main episode, my main part that all the information that I found through that documentary that I wanted to share. There's so much more in there. There's way more information, so I highly recommend watching it
Thank you for
or listening
sharing.
to it.
I definitely want to watch it now. Okay, and I'll share my undercover hero.
Oh wait, you have to share your recommendation.
Oh, shoot. Okay, so
I'm gonna talk
Hannah's
about that
is
show.
since Hannah's is also on Netflix, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll share one on my Netflix which is Love on the Spectrum. So Love on the Spectrum is about people like 20s to 30s dating. I guess there doesn't need to be an age limit, but just people on the autism spectrum dating. And I actually find it really helpful for me myself because I'm neurodivergent. I wouldn't say I'm like on the autism spectrum, but I
Mm-hmm.
do like kind of understand like a lot of what they're saying is really relatable to even people like neurotypical people and um especially for dating, like it's really strange. Like you're
Yeah.
just like meeting up with random strangers and like expect to fall in love. It's such a weird thing. And
So
so
weird.
I've like actually learned a lot about dating through it, and it's just really cute and like funny at times. So I highly
I love
recommend.
that show.
I was kind of steering away because what I was worried about, and I could be wrong because I'm not autistic, it might actually be bad, like that it would be misrepresentative of people with
Yeah.
autism. And I think it's done a good job. I mean, like, there's barely any narration. It's mostly from like the voiceovers of the people that are going on dates. So like, it's just them talking about their feelings. And most of the time when they're going on dates, it's like people who are also on the autism spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I actually learned that do you know Asperger's syndrome? You watched the show, so
Yeah.
I'm sure you know. I actually learned that that's like an outdated term, so that was good to know. But that also is on the autism spectrum. So there's like a bunch of stuff that's all been compiled into that spectrum that goes further than autism that I didn't really like connect the dots before, but it's cool. You learn a lot about just because autism is basically like the way autistic people, some of them like experience the world is just slight or think about the world or think in general is just different. So it's interesting to see how different autistic people see things and like things like social cues you would take for granted. Like they actually are weird. Like there's so many things that like we're expected to do.
Yeah.
And not to go on a tangent, but like I really relate like especially to the term masking,
Mm-hmm.
masking, which is basically just like a lot of times like neurodivergent people might have difficulty like keeping eye contact or certain things that like neurotypical people would be like, okay, you're being rude right now, or like
Mm-hmm.
or just not smiling, like having like almost a frown, even like a really scary like resting bitch face almost. These are like things that um you learn over time to kind of look friendlier, right? And that's a
Yeah.
part of masking is just like not only looking friendly or just like it can be a way to like keep yourself safe too, like just to act like you are not who you really are, basically. It's like
Yeah, totally.
it's kind of difficult to describe, but like acting in ways that like you've just been trained to act random things that like why am I doing this? It's literally just because I've been taught to do it. I relate to that a lot, so it was interesting to see how people who have even more difficulty, like I wouldn't say passing, but you know what I mean, like because like at times when people find out you have autism or something like that, I've seen people like use the R word. I've seen people treat people differently just off of
No.
that. Yeah. And like I can't imagine what it's like just for me. Like I
Hmm.
just have a depression and anxiety disorder. So there are times where I need to act like I'm in control when I'm really not. And like
Hmm.
I totally get that aspect as much as I possibly could, having not experienced a lot of that myself. But uh, it's a very interesting show. It makes you like reflect on a lot of things that are just stupid, basically, that you're forced to do to conform to society's standards.
No, totally. And also, like, at least for me, it like brought awareness to like the fact that everybody has like different triggers or like
Mm-hmm.
different things that like overstimulate them. And so even though like an environment might be fine for you, like it might be like too much for someone else, you know? But like you don't even sometimes you don't even think about that. But then it's got
Yes,
to be so hard like having to navigate the world and like people aren't even being considerate of the fact that like it might be too much going on and they're just like, well, everyone else is fine, so but it's like no, like that's not how it should work. I don't know. I agree with you. Like, there's so many things you're like, oh my gosh, we're really just expected to know that. Like, we know that it's nice seeing the world through like other people's eyes, I guess.
that's so like I'm glad you brought that up because while I was watching the show, I was like thinking about how do they like some people who get overstimulated from pretty easily from like just at the grocery store, like the music that they play, like for me, it's just slightly irritating, but for someone else, it could be like, I can't even be here right now. Um, I can't
Right?
stand it. And like I've
And
noticed grocery stores have started to, um, I can't remember. I read something a long time ago. They were like doing a night for neurodivergent people to shop, and they have like reduced
oh, that's nice.
lighting, like no music or reduced music. What were you about to say though?
Oh, I was just thinking, like, yeah, and then if you say like it's too much and you put headphones in, then people are gonna think, oh, that person's so weird, they're so checked out from the world. It's like,
Oh
no, you
yeah,
just
it's so
create an
stupid.
environment
Yeah.
that's so loud and like yeah, I really like that show too. And it's also like cute, like I mean, sometimes the dates don't work out, but then there's like that one couple that's married, like I'm married. I'm like, ah, it's so cute.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
uh, so yeah.
My undercover hero is Heaven Allows, or on Instagram, and Hall of Stars on Instagram and TikTok. And they're an artist. I don't know much about the person, but they make armory, quote unquote, and like art. I call it art with flowers. So like they cover their hand, but like it looks like they're like a being made out of like a fairy, almost like made out of flowers. It's really cool what they do. And
Oh,
it's really interesting, and they do a lot of ASMR. I know a lot of people don't like ASMR, but
I
um,
like ASMR.
it's like a really sensory experience if you do like
Oh,
it. Like they just especially their TikToks, like they just show you the flowers. It's so beautiful, and like it makes weird sounds too when they're like moving their hands. Like it's really interesting. So
I'm gonna check
I
it
just want
out.
to shout them out for making something really interesting that I've never really seen before.
I love unique things, like unique art. It's like, oh yes, I feel refreshed. Well, my undercover hero is a TikToker. It's always a TikToker. At who is at Opal's Treasures GB on TikTok. And it's someone named Lucy. I don't know the pronouns though, so I'm just gonna say they. Um, they make earring. Well, okay, I first found them because I saw that they were making earrings out of plastic bottle caps. But apparently they make a bunch of other things like key rings, soap dishes, and other things. And so it's from like, old used bottle caps or plastic. So they're recycling it into like something that could actually be used. And then when I went on their website, you can donate stuff to them. They're in the UK, so I mean, I guess we don't have any listeners in the UK yet, but if you're in the UK, like you can send them your old recycled stuff. Like they have a whole page on their website, which I think is really cool. And it's just like another person who's like seeing a problem and trying to, come up with a solution, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at their TikTok now. It's really pretty. I wonder how
Yeah, it's like
they like
cool.
melt it, I'm assuming.
I guess. Yeah, I don't really know the process, but it doesn't look like bottle caps. The like outcome, you wouldn't
That's the
even
important
know.
part, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just like bottle caps with like earring things on them.
Oh yeah, that's
You're
what I
just,
was
and
imagining.
then you
Like,
can screw a bottle into. Oh my God, wait! You could carry your bottle on your ear.
stop. That, I mean,
Uh,
I'm sure someone has done that.
I would. I mean, empty bottle. I don't know if it would work with water in there. It'd be really heavy. But yeah, that's my undercover hero.
So now we're gonna move on to talk more about the Lakela's Mitt, and I have a few recordings here. So I'll be sharing a few snippets from an interview in the field that I had with Cheryl Peterson from Bok Tower Gardens. And she's been a part of a small group that's been doing the habitat improvement efforts to improve the Lakela's Mitt numbers. And she shared with me a few published papers about it that I can I guess link in our bio. But so here's what I'm going to read the summary of a few, if that's okay. Lakela's Mitt is an endangered plant endemic to an approximately 4.8 kilometers long area in Florida. And so they did a study on it and they found out more about the breeding system. Oh, and she goes on to, hopefully the audio is good, but she goes on to explain basically that the insects are more frequently visited by the honeybee, which is a non-native pollinator versus the native pollinators, which is a bad thing, right? Because we want native pollinators to interact more because so the honeybee, there's something about their breeding that like it's not good to have them be the main pollinators of this plant. So basically it affects the seed output that non-native pollinators are more commonly attracted to them. And
Is this in the
then
article you're talking about or the
yeah,
paper
it's
you're
in an
talking about?
article,
Oh, you're good.
but she did talk about it with me. Um,
Mm.
and then this other one found basically this other one is talking about what I said earlier, that it relies on sandy scrub habitat with gaps in the canopy, and gaps at the ground level are essential to the survival of the species. They also tend to occupy locations that have drier soil, a higher abundance of conspecifics, which I don't know what that means, and a higher proportion of woody understory plants. And it's a short-lived, Lackless mint is a short-lived woody shrub historically found only within the narrow coastal dunes along roughly a 3-mile stretch at the Indian River and St. Lucie County border. So that's where it originated, which is cool because that's where Hannah and I, the general area where we live.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And now it's been reduced to only 5 vulnerable sites, 4 natural and 1 introduced. Plants within those 4 natural populations historically numbered in tens of thousands, but fewer than 4,000 plants currently exist. And only 0 to 5% of the seeds produced within a population are intact, and viability is lost if the seeds do not germinate within 1 year. And most of the seedlings perish before flowering. So, which is great for helping them improve their numbers.
Oh my God.
And they have about 10 years of data about the species.
Does it say how long the plant will live for? I know it said short-lived.
No, maybe it does further on.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, if we just link the papers, people can read them if
I'll
they
link the
want.
papers. That just gives you a better idea of what they're dealing with. And also fire exclusion and the invasive species are a huge part of the degradation of their habitat, because historically, once you've burned an area, there will be more gaps in the canopy and there will be more gaps at the ground level. But since there aren't, and at this point, like, we don't want a lot of like interruption to the few areas they are in, so it's very difficult to kind of, and the area that I volunteer at is right next to the Harbor Branch Oceanographic Center, so it's very unlikely that that area could be burned. Basically, I'm gonna go ahead and play the audio. Hopefully it's good. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I hear the bugs in the background. Oh wait.
Yeah, so this is one of the rarest species in the whole world. It's found only on the Atlantic coastal ridge where we are, and it's ever only historically been known from a 3-mile stretch of this ridge. And this ridge is very, very, very narrow, like a quarter mile, and this is on scrub habitat, this white sandy scrub habitat. Right. But since it's slightly higher in elevation, that's where they put US 1, the railroad tracks, all the development, because it's not going to flood as much as anything else. We're on our ridge. And there was probably one large population that extended at least those 3 miles. But because of development, it's been cut into like 5 smaller populations. And that's all that's left, it's about 5. But this is the largest natural population. So if something happens to this, the species could easily go extinct, in the wild. We have a couple introductions, and we're working on a third one this year to introduce new populations. And we've also augmented a natural population that only had 400 plants. But even though the plants, there's probably about 2,000 in natural populations and about 2,000 in the introduced populations, maybe a little bit more. Our modeling is showing that the populations are fast declining. Like even in this spot, there used to be, like I said, tens of thousands, and it's down to probably hundreds, right now. And it's basically because of exactly what you can see, all this overgrowth of oaks. Right. Because of lack of fire, these oaks are gradually clonally increasing and spreading, and they get the oak leaf litter. And the pines, there's nothing to prevent the germination of the pine seedlings, so those are being huge, growing a lot more, and look, all the pine needle litter. And what it needs is the open sand gaps, because the seeds need to fall and use this open white sand in order to germinate, and it also needs the filtered sunlight rather than 100% shade. So this is all the decline is due to habitat loss in its last remaining spots. If its last remaining spots and our introductions had excellent quality habitat, then the plants, there would be enough of them to self-sustain a good, healthy population, regardless of droughts or hurricanes or other odd events that periodically are stressors, that come every several years. But because of the overgrowth, there's fewer and fewer plants, and the populations are just not going to be sustainable unless the habitat's improved. If we did nothing to this habitat, this population would probably be gone in about 5 years, and it would all be oaks, natal grass, some of the Kogon grass that's coming in, the love vine, and anything else that can just overtake it. The pines would grow. and all the diversity and the understory that is adapted to scrub the white sand gaps. You know, it's not just the mints, but all the other species that make up the diverse, healthy scrub. Those are all disappearing as well. So whatever we do to help the mints in terms of the habitat, that's also helping all the other species. And another thing that it's helping is the pollinators. We've done some studies on the pollinators of the mint, and it's primarily bees. And once these are flowering, there's loads of flowers all over. As far as you can see, it's a field of beautiful mixed flowers, and it attracts a lot of pollinators, primarily bees. But when we did studies to see what the pollinators are, we found that maybe 97% of them are all the non-native honeybees, and the remaining few percent are primarily the native bees, the bombus species, plus there's some butterflies and a wasp, or things like that. But so its primary pollinator is the bee. But the thing is that it's all the non-native honeybees.
Right.
And so we looked at the behavior of honeybees versus native bees, and we found that the honeybees are primarily attracted to the larger plants that are really showy and in the sun. And the honeybees also would go to one plant and work a lot of the flowers in one plant and then fly off. Where the native bee would, it also liked the big showy plants, but it would also visit plants that were smaller and in the shade. So there were more plants being pollinated with the native bees. And also the native bees would work a couple of flowers and then go off to another plant and then another, maybe come back to this. And what that is telling us is that the non-native bees, since they don't equally visit all the plants, they're only pollinating a subset, so those plants will be the ones that they visit will be the ones that contribute seeds to the next generation. So every subsequent generation, there's fewer and fewer plants contributing to the genetics of the next generations, because you want them all pollinated equally, and the non-native bees are not doing that. And also, since the non-native bees are pollinating mostly within a plant, that means that it's promoting selfing rather than outcrossing to another plant. So the non-native bees are contributing less to each successive generation genetically, and they're promoting selfing, where the native bees are allowing more of the plants to be pollinated, so the next subsequent generations will be more genetically diverse, and they also are promoting outcrossing and less selfing. And in terms of selfing a plant, like why that might matter, when I did some hand crosses within a plant versus between two different plants, there's fewer viable seeds produced in selfing versus outcrossing. So that means that the non-native bees, since they promote selfing, are contributing fewer viable seeds to the next generation too. So even though, when it's profusely flowering and it's full of bees, when they're the non-native bees, that's not the best thing for the population. We want native bees like it was all designed. That's going to make them healthier population, more viable seeds. More genetically robust over the generations for the mints. So everything that we're doing in terms of the habitat, helping the habitat, that's also helping the native bees, because the native bees need healthy, diverse scrub ecosystems like we're trying to recreate here. So what we're doing is not only helping the mints and all the other understory plant diversity species, and the gopher tortoises and everything else that doesn't like the overgrowth, but it's also helping to promote the native bees having a habitat, so they could have more forage, and also places where they can nest as well, because they need the open areas as well.
And I noticed that you're doing both chemical and manual methods of invasive removal.
Yes.
Have you ever considered, I don't know what you think about biological controls?
If there was something that we could use, that I would like to do that, as long as I knew that it wasn't going to harm anything else.
Right.
There's no biological control that I can think of that would be appropriate out here right now.
Okay.
What we're trying to get rid of is the clonal oaks, the Brazilian pepper, the natal grass, the life plant, the love vine, even though that's not a non-native species. Normally fire would take care of the overgrowth of the love vine, but in lieu of fire, we're going to have to pull it out. I don't know of a biological control for that either. If there was one, I would love to look into that. But in terms of what we need to do for the mints, I don't know of one.
Okay.
That was so
So-
interesting.
Yeah, and I apologize again. We were in the field doing it. You can hear the chainsaw in the back. They were taking out woody oaks from the mid-story as we were speaking. And I was actually helping her as we were talking, like in between, we were counting random individuals and looking at, I think they're called the nuts, help kind of them understand how many, because they had just flowered, I believe, around that time. So how many were likely to be reproducing. But yeah.
Is she like, so she does research on them?
Yes. She
That's
is
really
a part of
cool.
the group that does the habitat that does the habitat management and improvement program for them.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. Though, okay, so I really like your question, by the way, about the biological control. No, not control. Biological
No, yeah. Biological control.
control. Oh, okay, can we define that? Because I don't know if everybody knows what that is. I'm gonna look up a definition, sorry.
Oh yeah, okay. So how I would define it is basically a biological control. So when I said chemical and manual or mechanical, the mechanical is kind of like I said, the chainsaw and removing by hand the love vine, and the chemical is applying herbicides and different chemicals essentially to make sure that whatever we cut or take out won't grow back. And then a biological control is introducing a new species into the environment that outcompetes either the invasive or non-native species that are causing, again, like she mentioned, there's a non-native bee that we wouldn't want to get rid of, but something
You could like,
or yeah, for what I was thinking with when I asked her that was like something to outcompete the love vine that would it's the reason why I
but
said what do you think is it's very controversial. What were you gonna say?
I've heard of that too. Well, because if it outcompetes the love vine, it's just gonna replace the love vine, right?
Right, I was just about to say, so that's what makes biological controls so like it's very, especially in an environment like that, it's uncontrollable at times, and it has gone wrong. We have like lots of times
Oh
where
my
we've
God.
introduced biological controls and they've caused a lot of damage. So you
Yeah.
need something that it has to have a lot of factors. It has to outcompete the love vine or the natal grass, and also it has to live in harmony with the Lakela's mint. But it also cannot do anything to cause like degradation of the environment or outcompete other native species that you would want there. And so there's a lot that goes into the success of that, and that's why I asked like, what do you think about it? But she seemed very open to it, and again, I would be too if it were one of the rarest plants. Like I would try anything.
No,
But
totally. Well, it's actually interesting because when she was mentioning the plants that like are taking up space and overcrowding it, Brazilian pepper, which is invasive, I thought a couple years ago they had finally decided to release a biological control, and they were gonna, I don't know if they were releasing it or if they were like still doing like research on it, but they were gonna release a bug that is known to like eat and destroy the plant because they just like cutting it down and using herbicides just isn't working, I guess. But then that got me thinking like you could just use a bunch of different biological controls, but I don't know. Like,
yeah,
do you get
no,
what I'm
I get what
saying?
you
Like
mean.
slowly
Yeah.
take out all the other things.
And that the issue with that, because that's also kind of been done, is that like you wouldn't know what was helping. It's hard
Yeah.
because it's like there is only like there isn't really a population growing in a lab that they could test that all on. And even then,
Yeah.
it wouldn't necessarily work in the real world, which is where it matters. I do remember the Brazilian pepper thing, but I don't remember specifics or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Another
it's
thing
a
that
complex problem.
yeah, it's really complex. I feel like all the problems are complex. But the another thing that it made me think of was that, or how the complexity of it made me think of how everything is so connected. You don't even realize.
Yeah,
Because
it's
like I
fragile
wouldn't have
too.
thought that. No, and I wouldn't have thought that a different. I didn't even know we had non-native bees here. Number one, but number two, I wouldn't think that that would cause this one species of plant to have lower reproduction or whatever. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm glad she explained it because I remember that was an important aspect. And I don't know if
No.
you could understand her,
Yeah,
but she said like 97% of the pollinators that are on it are non-native or something like
that's
that.
crazy. I also want to know why. I wonder if they know why native bees pollinate more of like different plants than
So
the non-native.
yeah, that was actually, let me go back because I saw while I was looking over it, I saw that in the one of the studies she sent. I
Hmm.
think it's because, hold on, I think it was the second one. So I think what it was, it has to do with the showiness, and native bees are more so. Hold on.
Yeah, that's what she was saying. Like, but I thought she said both species liked big, flashy flowers.
Right, and actually, I don't know if you've seen the lackless mint flowers.
Hmm.
They're very pretty, but they're very small and they're not
They're.
very showy. They're a nice like purple color, which
Hmm.
is good. But I think it has to do with like the height as well. And
Oh, because
we
they're
went
pretty
over,
low, right?
yeah, they're a ground species basically. I don't know if they grow any higher than that, but another important thing to remember is that the non-native bees will only go to a few individuals and then kind of fly off. And
Hmm.
the thing is, like, they'll be more attracted to the higher ones that are like get that little gaps of sunlight, the taller ones, and then the
Hmm.
shorter ones won't get as many bees coming to it. And so that also leads to, like she was saying, she already explained it, so I don't need to explain it again, but the selfing, it kind of
Yeah.
affects the genetic diversity of the population as well,
Hmm.
which we all know is a bad thing for
Yeah.
any species.
I was just curious. But I mean, also like, I also know like science doesn't have all the answers. I was just curious if like maybe they started to research why, like if they've interviewed any bees and asked why. Because that's the
Yeah.
only way you get a definite answer of why.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there are a lot. Again, like they've been studying it for 10 years, so I'm sure there's a lot more out there.
Well, at least this is
I
like,
can
you know
ask
what?
her.
This is like promo for, oh yeah, promo for the Lacklusmint. People go out and study this plant. That's really interesting though. I really like that interview.
Thank you. Yeah, it was short, and I have a few more. Hopefully the audio is better. There was a lot of insects there.
Yeah, but I still heard her. I could still hear
Okay, good.
everything.
And then we have the little areas. In each of the areas, there's a number of, like, say, from 2 to 6 of the meter square quads. And we have some 2 meter square quads out here, too, that we collect all the demography data in. And in that demography, in those quads, we collect
I'm sorry.
data on the number of seedlings that come up in that quad every year and what their survival is over time. And how long it takes them, like what percentage is reproductive, and the size of the plant in these size classes, and the number of reproductive stems. So we collect all that demographic data on every single plant in those quads. And so that's how we kind of take a snapshot of what's happening with the whole population. We have about 42 quads out here.
Oh, wow.
And actually we don't have that many. 30 something anyway.
That's
But,
still a good amount.
yeah, we have a lot of quads out here. And we collect data twice a year, this spring and fall, March and October. But so we have areas, like I said, just like over there, I forget what area that is, but there's like 6 quads there. There's 6 quads in the area that Paul's working on. There's 2 quads on that area, and do this clearing like we're doing. The next census, it can spike up, and it could stay up for a couple years and gradually go down as it gets overgrown. So we can see a strong response to the habitat work we're doing, especially the oak removal and the leaf litter removal. We can see a strong response in our quads just the next census period, just the next year. And we don't have to work in the quad, but even just in that area, you know, in and around the area is enough to improve the habitat enough, you know. And it could be because maybe it's more open and more pollinators have come in, or maybe the wind, you know, can blow the seeds out of the quad into some newly open sand, or the sunlight changes. For whatever reason, we even if we don't work directly in the quads, we see a really strong positive response. But it only persists for a couple of years, depending on what we do, you know, how much we do. So that's why it's like important, especially the love vine removal. If you don't remove the love vine, they just disappear and they'll never come back until it's gone. And then sometimes it'll take a couple census periods for the mints to start coming back into that area, because it just wipes them out. The love vine just destroys them.
So is it kind of like going like this, but overall it's increasing?
After we do the work, it usually peaks either the next census or the following census, then starts going down.
Oh, okay.
It depends.
Okay.
I can actually send you the
Oh, that'd be
chart,
cool, yeah.
So if we were able to, say, get on top of it right away and start removing that, we wouldn't have had this problem. But because it just sort of stayed like that,
Yeah.
then a lot of the mints they just kept dying, and then you get more of these you know, species that would not normally be here. And even some of the natives, that when the ground is disturbed, you start getting a lot of these natives coming in that aren't really a normal dense part of scrub, like the Baddies, Baddies, dog fennel, some of these grasses. They're native, but they just wouldn't be this dense in here if it wasn't disturbed. So a lot of species start colonizing once it's disturbed, and so that happened as well. So this completely changed after the hurricanes, and it wasn't until several years later that we were able to get everything together, to get the funding and the partnership with the county, everything in place to start these work days. And so,
I realized I was muted. Of course, a plane has to fly like right when she's saying something important.
I gotcha.
Next few years, like another, those would all grow up, and then the other area would burn later on, and so that's kind of how it went. So if this whole thing got burned, prescribed fire, there'd probably be next to no mints left. So we need to exclude areas of the mints, burn the rest, and then repopulate, or else we could take a lot of cuttings and then reintroduce, but the best thing would be to exclude, you know, or to do mini burns. Like if we, there's like burn boxes or areas, like if this could be cut into smaller areas, or just, you know, the burn boxes are like these walls, you know, that you can have fire inside. You can make them as big as you want or small as you want. And you could burn inside and then like pick that up and move it somewhere else and burn it. So, but this needs a burn to really do this right, you know. It's just that, how is that going to happen, you know?
So they're not really fire adapted at all.
The habitat is fire adapted,
But the plant itself.
The population is fire adapted, but the plant itself is killed by fire.
Okay.
Unless it was such a light fire, like if this is all sand like it should be, you know, in a quality habitat, and a fire would come through here, it might like singe a little bit, and then that would stimulate growth, we think, because we're seeing that at another site. and it wouldn't kill the whole plant. But when you have a lot of litter like this and a lot of fuel around, it would be hot enough to kill them all. So yeah, I mean, if we had higher quality habitat and was able to burn it, then they all wouldn't die. They would be singed and probably improve. There was one site that we're doing our introduction that we're looking at its response to fire. We have like 4 quads set up. One we're doing like mechanical removal of overgrowth. Another one's by hand. Another one nothing, and then another quad where we put plants where we had a burn. And also one of the other quads we had a burn before we planted, and then another one we planted, let them become reproductive, and then burn it. And what we're finding is that the quad that burned before we put all the plants in, those plants grew really well, and they're like huge. I mean, you have to get a higher size class just to accommodate them. They're well over 200. So we think that even though fire doesn't stimulate, can kill, hot fire can kill the plants. Once you have burned an area and then the plants grow in that, it's probably super stimulating to the plant. It doesn't seem to help seed germination though, interestingly, because when we did the germination trials in the greenhouse, we used a dilution of a liquid smoke made with real smoke to kind of stimulate the chemical effects of fire on seed germination. And in a lot of species, those dilutions of liquid smoke can stimulate germination, and even including a couple of other of the dicerandras, but this one lowers the germination rate. It either does nothing or lowers it, so it doesn't seem to chemically stimulate fire. I told you.
And I actually, that was the last part. I actually cut out right when she said like the really prolific speech, but it's basically what I said earlier about like there very few seedlings survive, and it needs very specific habitat, and everything's going against this plant. But again, like there are scientists that are caring about it, and like she said, doing a bunch of different studies on how fire could help, how making sure to get more native pollinators could help, lots of different ways to try and save the mint. So hopefully I've inspired, or we've inspired a few people to come and help in whatever way they can.
Yeah, you inspired me.
Aw.
Also, I think it's really funny that it's like it's fire adapted but not fire adapted. But
I
it also
know.
just speaks to the fact that like that's how common fire was historically, like at least down here in Florida. Like those
Yeah.
habitats really were so used to being burned that often that the plant matter wasn't that much, so the fires really weren't that bad or that big.
Right, and I'm
Which
glad
is
you
why
brought that up.
Oh, sorry, go. No, you're good.
No, you can keep talking.
I was just gonna say, and that's why prescribed fires are good. And then I was gonna be like, oh, that's gonna be one of our episodes, hopefully.
Ooh, I hope so.
I want to talk about it.
Now I realize maybe we should have done it when we went to that fire fest.
Yeah, but I mean, things that are like, when things are like make too much sense, do they really make sense? Like, I think it makes sense for us to do the episode in a totally different year than when we went to the fire festival.
I like that.
We've had time to reflect.
I was gonna say that's a good point. Oh, what were you gonna say?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that's a good point because I'm not sure if other people listening understood what she was saying there, but basically, like when the fire is too hot, it won't survive, and it is a fire adapted habitat. But the plant itself is not fire adapted like a pine tree would be. So when there's increased fuel loads, which is again like the pine leaf litter, for example, building up because it's not been burning, that leads to hotter fires, and not only that, it's dangerous. It's more dangerous at this point. It would be too dangerous to have a prescribed burn because again, the Oceanographic Institute is right next door and it would be harder to control. So um, this is why it's so important to bring back prescribed fires, as much as
Mhm.
people feel uncomfortable with that, to our ecosystems, because in the long run, like it'll just improve the health of the ecosystem, but it'll also be safer for in the future if they want to burn again. Um, at this point, like, it's good to keep options open, and that's just not an option anymore because, oh, the timer.
Mm. Honestly, I don't know if I'm cutting you off, but
No,
I have an idea, which they probably already thought of this because they're, working on this every day. But I wonder if they could manually get rid of a bunch of stuff in these areas, and then they can keep fire, like putting fire through it and doing like the box she was talking about, because I didn't even know that was a thing. That's really cool. But
Yeah, um, that is something that she said they want to do. Um, and we were raking, I didn't say this, but we were raking pine needles out of the way just to make bare
mhm.
soil. I don't think we got rid of them. Like, I don't think we collected them or removed them. We just
Yeah.
raked them. But they are testing like if it even is worth it. Like she said, which I thought it was funny that they were using liquid smoke in the lab, but
Uh,
they are testing like how much of an effect fire would have on the survival of seedlings and just germination
really
overall.
interesting.
So
It's really funny because because I've seen those plants before and they're really just like short and they're like tiny little shrubs. But then when you think of like how you said that they're not fire adapted like pines, and then the way that at least like the pines down here, they're like, what is it? Their first 1 or 2 years of growth is just them getting tall so that if a fire goes through, it won't hit their like green, like photosynthetic, right? Yeah,
right.
part of their body. Like that makes sense because that's not what the Lackland looks like at all. Like if a fire that wasn't even, because how tall are those plants? Like what did you say? Like 12
So
inches at most?
right, and when she said in the thing, I realized it might be confusing for people. Like she said size class of 200. When she said
Mm-hmm.
that, it was what I was talking about earlier, like the little nutlets, how many um
Mm,
branches, she called it something else, but like branches basically and nutlets are on the plant. And the biggest one I saw, I mean, like probably like your ankle to mid leg, like very
okay, so
short
that's like
plants.
short. So like
Yeah,
a
very
little,
short.
even like a tiny little small fire would wipe that out.
Definitely. And that's what fires are for, to like get rid of ground cover. Usually that's like
Totally.
what it's for, but again, like that's what we're trying to save is the ground cover. Most people just focus on the canopy. Uh,
It's also so interesting to me because this plant grows in a place where barely any other plants would want to grow, right? And so it obviously did that as a way to adapt to keep surviving. But now it being so specific to one area is what's gonna like I mean, we're technically driving its potential extinction, but like it just it's interesting to me how like I bet back when it was first a plant, it was like, oh man, all the grass and dirt space is taken up. Like I guess I'll just make do with this sand pile. And now it's like, damn it, my sand pile is going away. Like this isn't fair.
yeah, I just
So
like I remember when she was talking, like I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad for this plant. Like this poor plant is just
oh,
trying its
this has
hardest
to
to
survive,
survive.
and we had to put a freaking highway on its home.
Yeah, and you can hear how loud it is. The site that I was at, you've been to it, so I'm sure you know, it's like right next to like that federal highway and like
Hmm.
it's
And there's
very
another street
developed
on the other side.
area. Yeah, it's all developed for FAU buildings, I guess. I'm
Yeah.
not as familiar with the area, but it's a very small area, like, and they don't own it all, so they can't control like how the rest of it is managed, basically. I mean, I'm sure like the people would be like, oh, of course you never know, I guess, but we went past like the line. They're growing in that whole area, but
Mm,
it's not really owned by them, so they're not in full control.
yeah, no, definitely. And plus, it was there way before them. Because I mean, that place has been around for 50 years now. This was their 50th year anniversary, but that plant is older than that. So,
Yeah.
but thanks for that was a lot of really awesome information, though.
Yay.
I love learning things.
I'm glad they worked out. I was worried about the audio, but so that's it on the Lackless Mitt. Save the Mitt. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you want more content or if you want to listen to more of our episodes, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, SoundCloud. I think that's it, right? Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah.
Spotify. We're at Conservation Baddies. For all of those, also our Instagram is at Conservation Baddies, and you can DM us or email us. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. We love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye bye.